And we are back with the with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by not the basketball. Excuse me. I'm still used to the basketball podcast. So let me try that again. Welcome back to the fourth segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to be doing a recap of all of the NBA games that went down over the weekend, and as well as giving some of my predictions for the NFL game that's going to happen later tonight, and maybe a little bit, if we do have time, maybe a bit of predictions of the NBA games that are going to be going down tonight as well. And obviously, I'm going to be paying more attention to the Monday Night Football game. I always do, but I'm going to try my best with the allotted time that we have. So let's go right ahead. So on Friday, the games that went down. There were a lot of games that went down in the NBA on Friday, and I predicted that the Celtics were going to end up winning in this matchup against the Nets, and they ultimately proved that to be true in an overtime win against the Brooklyn Nets. Cam Thomas, he ended the game with 31. Cameron Johnson, he ended the game with 18, and Dennis Schroeder ended with 20. Meanwhile, on the Celtics side, Jason Tatum continues to have his MVP caliber performance with 33 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. Excuse me. There was no Jaylen Brown in this matchup, but that's no problem because this team is still good enough to combat against the Brooklyn Nets, as they've always been throughout most of the season and like most of the years as of recent memory. Now, the Bucks, they lose again to the New York Knicks, and this is just going to be a trend for the Bucks, I think, for the entirety of the season. I fully expect Giannis to get traded and try to force his way out of the situation. The duo of Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham is just absolutely horrible. I don't think Doc Rivers is going to have a job in the NBA anymore after this. I don't think Darvin Ham is going to have a job in the NBA anymore after this season either. They're just two terrible, terrible coaches, and they get away with a lot. I mean, the Bucks, they lost despite the fact that Giannis ended with 24 and 12. Damian Lillard did not really play to his standards. He did have 19 points, but shot 6 for 15 from the field. The team really, really seems to lack depth. Bobby Portis did not play well in this matchup either, 1 for 8, 4 points. And on the Knicks side, Karl-Anthony Towns ended the game with 32 points along with 11 rebounds, the leading scorer for the Knicks. So, just an incredible game coming in from Cat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and speed through most of these, mainly because, again, I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have. The Cavs, they ended up beating the Golden State Warriors as I expected them to. They continue to have a flawless record. They won 136 to 117, despite a really solid shooting performance coming in from the Golden State Warriors. Their bench, the starters, they didn't really seem to play all that well. Steph Curry ended with only 12 points. And he was 5 for 10 from the field, however, which is pretty solid. But again, the rotation on this team and the depth on this team, at least at the guard position, is really, really good. And again, Darius Garland, he played phenomenally against the Warriors with 27 points. Now, I thought that the Mavericks were going to end up getting the best of the Suns. That did not happen. They ended up losing 113 to 114 against Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix, they played really, really well as a team. And, the Mavericks, they also played pretty well as a team, with Luka Doncic dropping 37 and 7 and Kyrie Irving dropping 29. Klay Thompson, he only had 12 points, 4 for 13, 1 for 7 from 3. It really, really seems like, that dropping Klay Thompson and letting Klay Thompson walk, if you were the Golden State Warriors, was the best move. Kevin Durant, he ended with 26 points. Devin Booker ended with 13 points along with 12 assists. And Bradley Beal ended with 15 points. So again, the rest of the team, they played very solid. Lakers, they ended up beating the 76ers. Of course they did. The 76ers, they still don't have Joel Embiid up until, today. Now they're going to have Joel Embiid. Paul George did not play well against LeBron at all. 4 for 13, 0 for 6 from 3. Meanwhile, LeBron, of course, he ended the game with a triple-double, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 13 assists. Anthony Davis continues his MVP season, 31 points, along with 9 rebounds to go along with that. Excuse me. The Lakers, they're just really good now. And LeBron is still LeBron. The Hornets, they ended up beating the Pacers in this matchup, 103-83, a very solid performance for the Hornets, one that I really did not expect. But then again, this is what happens when you go up against a team that is not really good on the defensive side. LaMelo Ball ended with 31 points, a really inefficient 31 points, by the way, 10 for 29 from the field and 5 for 18 from 3. But regardless, 31 points is still 31 points. Hawks, they lost to the Pistons in a very surprising loss. I didn't expect the Hawks to lose in this matchup. They lost 122-121. Magic, they beat the Pelicans, another outcome that I did not really expect. The Magic won 115-88. I don't think that the Pelicans had Zion in this matchup. In fact, I don't think that the Pelicans are going to have Zion much for the rest of the season, considering how he is out indefinitely, from what I know. So, not really good look for the Pelicans right now. The Thunder, they ended up winning 126-107 against Houston. Grizzlies ended up winning 128-104 against Washington. The Nuggets ended up winning 135-122, I believe, against the Miami Heat. Of course, Jokic ends with a 30-point triple-double. What else is new? 30 points, 11 rebounds, along with 14 assists. He's probably the leading candidate in the MVP conversation right now, just based off of his last few performances. Either just behind Anthony Davis or just in front of Anthony Davis. Timberwolves ended up beating the Blazers 127-102, and the Kings ended up losing to the Clippers 107-98. Addition by subtraction. And on Saturday, the Cavs, they ended up beating the Nets 105-100, and now their record is 11-0, the only flawless team in the entire NBA right now. The Jazz, they ended up beating the Spurs in a surprising 111-110 win, and they improved their record to 2-7, which I believe is the same as the Bucks right now. Victor had 24 points, 16 rebounds, and 7 blocks in this game, and they still lost, which really says a lot about the Spurs. The Bulls, they ended up beating the Hawks 125-113, and the Clippers, they continue winning, beating the Raptors 105-103. I'm very, very surprised with the Clippers and their success. Addition by subtraction really is working. Now, yesterday, the Pacers, they ended up beating the Knicks, an outcome that I didn't really expect. They won 132-121, mainly because Mikal Bridges forgot how to shoot in this game. The Warriors, as I mentioned before, they ended up beating the Thunder 127-116 in this matchup, mainly because Chet Holmgren was injured. The Nuggets, they ended up beating the Mavericks, and of course, Jokic again drops another triple-double. He's the first player in NBA history to record a stat line of 37 points, 15 assists, and 18 rebounds. Just phenomenal coming in from Jokic. The Lakers also continue to win with another LeBron James triple-double. I mean, what can't he do? He's LeBron. 19 points, 16 assists, and 10 rebounds along with that. It should also be noted, D'Angelo Russell has been benched. About time. He has finally been benched, which means that LeBron is the only point guard in the starting lineup right now. Yes, LeBron is the point guard, like it. It's the only thing that really makes sense. I mean, Cam Reddish isn't running the point. Austin Reeves, he brings the ball up sometimes, but LeBron's the point guard. End of story. La point guard in the chat. And Anthony Davis, he ended with 22 points and 4 rebounds along with that as well. And D'Lo, I mean, he seems to be playing around the same as he did on the bench. I'm not entirely sure if that's really a good move, but we'll see how it goes in the future. Right now, they're 2-0 with D'Lo coming off the bench, so we'll see. Again, it was against pretty bad teams, but we'll see how it goes in the future. Houston, they ended up beating the Pistons, taking care of business, despite the fact that the Pistons were favorites in this game for some reason, I think. And they ended up winning 101-99. The Bucks continue their losing streak, losing to the Celtics 113-107. Giannis, of course, puts up 43 points, 13 rebounds, and he still lost. This Bucks team is horrible. I cannot believe that they fired Adrian Griffin just to hire Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham to be their two coaches, and it's really, really bad. I mean, Adrian Griffin single-handedly has a better record as the head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks, more so than Doc Rivers does and more so than Darvin Ham does. And I really don't understand. I mean, this was a coach that was winning, and he still ended up getting fired. I don't know what the front office was thinking, and I don't know what the organization was thinking, completely getting rid of him. The Magic, they actually surprisingly continue to win, beating the Wizards. But again, this is the Wizards, so not really much of a surprise there. 121-94 was the final score in this matchup. The 76ers, beat the Hornets in a very, very close game. I mean, the game was forced into overtime thanks to a ridiculous LaMelo Ball three-point shot coming from the corner. It was a fadeaway three, which was insane. LaMelo also ended with 38 points. Of course he did. But again, 30 shots. That is super, super inefficient. But again, 38 points is 38 points. And, excuse me, 76ers, they ended up winning this game, of course. The game ended up going into overtime, mainly because Paul George could not hit the game-winning shot. And, I mean, I don't know what he was doing in that final minute, but he held the ball for like 4 seconds, did a jab step, and then took a step back, and then bricked the three. And because of that, he did not play a single minute in overtime, which was kind of funny, but I digress. Next, the Heat ended up shocking the Timberwolves, beating them 95-94 in this matchup. The Kings ended up shocking the Suns, beating them 127-118 in this matchup in overtime, thanks to the clutch performance from DeMar DeRozan as well as De'Aaron Fox late in the overtime period. And the Grizzlies ended up completely destroying the Blazers 134-89. Now, this was a very, 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 very bad game for the Portland Trailblazers. How bad was it? Well, think of it like this. So, the Blazers, they got absolutely blown out of the water. That much is for certain. But the Grizzlies did not have Ja Morant. The Blazers as a team shot 42 threes, only made 4 of them. They also shot 34% from the field. They also only had one starter which had more than double-digit points. And finally, they turned the ball over 23 times. That is bad. That is bad ball. And they have an argument for being one of the worst teams in the entire NBA. And honestly, we're going to have to see if they are after I'm looking at the 5th segment. Stay tuned for that. And finally, since, I just recapped all of the NBA games that went down, let's go ahead and talk about the football games that are going to be happening. The football game, that's going to be happening tonight, which is the Rams against the Miami Dolphins. Now, from what I've seen, I believe Tua Tagovailoa is going to be a game-time decision for the Miami Dolphins, which could end up being a problem for the Rams because obviously, Tua is a far better quarterback than whichever other quarterback that they have. It's honestly, that's how bad it is. I haven't been paying much attention to the Dolphins this year, but I do know that their starting quarterback situation is not all that good. Tua, he did play in the last matchup against the Bills, but from what I know, he seems to be a game-time decision, and he's been playing recently because, he did return back from his concussion, but again, might be a game-time decision. And if he is going to be a game-time decision, they have between either Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle as their quarterback, which, again, is not ideal. But we'll see how this goes for this game. I'm not entirely sure if the Dolphins have thrown in the towel just yet for this season and just chalked up the season. And, I mean, I wouldn't really say that they should chalk up the season, mainly because, despite the fact that they're 2-6, they can still be a rather solid. They could still be a team that finishes second in their division just because of how bad their division actually is. The Jets, they've been abysmal. They're 3-7. The Patriots have also been abysmal. They're 3-7, and they could finish today with a better record than They could finish today with a better record than the Jets and the Patriots and move them all the way up to the second in their division. Does this mean that they're going to make the playoffs? Not entirely sure. Maybe if they win out, but I'm not entirely sure if they've chalked up the season. But again, Tua might be a game-time decision. Aside from that, though, I feel confident with the Rams in this pick. I mean, the Rams, they do play at home. And I know that they do have a little bit of an injury-riddled roster just based off of the few games that they've played. But again, they've been able to pull off some really incredible wins with Stafford and the rest of the core that they have. I mean, the last game that I was able to see when, they played the Seahawks, they won in overtime off of a crazy Matt Stafford touchdown and a one-handed catch coming in from one of those receivers. I mean, that was a really, really good game and a really incredible way to end the game. I mean, I think the receiver was Demarcus Robinson, I think it was, who ended up catching that ball one-handed, which was, again, very, very impressive. And they also before that game against the Seahawks, they came off of a win against the Vikings, which seemed to be like a very solid team before the last few losses that they ended up taking. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes for the Rams and if they have any playoff hopes. But as of right now, I'm going to pick the Rams to win in this matchup. And now for the NBA and the NBA predictions, let's see. Do I have enough time for that? You know what? Yeah, I could speed run through this because it's only a few games. Pelicans against the Nets. I think the Nets are going to end up winning this matchup because the Pelicans have a little bit too many injuries. Spurs against the Kings. I think the Kings are going to win in this matchup. Clippers against the Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to win despite the fact that they don't have Chet Holmgren. Cavs against the Bulls. Cavs are probably going to continue to be a flawless team, to be 12-0. And Wizards against Houston, I'm going to pick Houston in this matchup. And those are my predictions. So that's it for the fourth segment. And now we're going to go ahead and go into the fifth segment where I look at the NBA power rankings because they were just released before this show. So I'll be right back after this short break. If you guys are interested, stay tuned.